For a closer look at the political turmoil in Venezuela, we're joined now by Eduardo Gamarra. He's a professor of politics and international affairs at Florida International University. He also co-founded and edited Hemisphere, a magazine on Latin American and Caribbean affairs. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So, Eduardo, was this a coup attempt?
Well, certainly not. It was more a very symbolic action. Although, as you noted, it's very difficult to say really who is behind this very symbolic flight over the Palace of Justice. So it's still very open to interpretation whether it comes from the opposition or whether it's something staged by the very government of Venezuela.
That's right. As you mentioned, both sides pointing the finger at the other as the search continues for the suspects. Do you have any inkling who may have been behind it? And really, if they wanted to do more damage, they certainly could have.
That's right. But let me tell you, I think that this act is very emblematic of what's happening in Venezuela today. I would say that Venezuela is really bordering on a situation of extraordinary chaos. The government no longer is able to control much of the turmoil in the country. Just a few days ago, there was a major ransacking in one of the largest cities in Venezuela. But most importantly, it appears that there are now signs that elements within the armed forces, elements within the police, are beginning to show signs that that they too are tiring of the situation, because after all, they're taking the blame for all of the violence that the government has used against the opposition.
And
so,
go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm beginning to think that there is a transition that's occurring, but most importantly that we are really beginning to see probably the beginning of an escalation of I guess a belief that it's now okay to take violent action against the state.
We've seen this happen for weeks and weeks now. It's not just the economics, but really humanitarian crisis. Some are saying underneath all of this. What is the tipping point? You mentioned an escalation. What needs to happen to get over the edge and bring these protests to an end?
Well, the government is going to have to show some signs that it is willing to negotiate politically. The only feasible outcome of this situation is a political negotiation with the opposition that might include the liberation of political prisoners, at least of the major political prisoners. But so far, the government has been unwilling to do that, even, not following the advice of the commission of 3 former presidents, the president of the Dominican Republic, of Spain, and of Panama, who are really seen even as very, very partial to the Venezuelan government, but they have refused to even listen to their advice. So unless there is a political opening of some kind, I think we're in for the long haul. This is going to turn much more violent. And as I said, this helicopter incident may just be symbolic of what is to come.
30 seconds left. Do you think we will see an election on July 30th, the election for a constituent assembly? Will that even happen?
Well, that's what the government has been pushing for, and that's really what now the main bone of contention is. The government has every intention of holding that, and it will, I think, escalate violence just to make sure that that does indeed occur. And that's why, many members of the opposition believe that this incident was staged so that the government can legitimately claim that there is an insurrection, that there is a coup attempt, and can justify holding elections under, very, very abnormal circumstances.
All right, Professor Eduardo Gamarra, thank you for joining us from Miami.